Adrian Cole had everything money could buy, except the one thing that mattered. His 8-year-old daughter hadn't spoken in 4 months, and every expert, every therapist, every specialist had failed. The mansion felt like a tomb. Then, in desperation, he did something unthinkable. He posted an offer online that went viral within hours. Half his fortune. $2 billion. To anyone who could make Elena smile again. The world called him crazy. The media called it a publicity stunt. But Adrian didn't care about any of that. He just wanted to hear his daughter's voice one more time. Before we continue, if you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments. I want to see how far this story travels. And if it moves you, hit that like button. Now, let's get into what really happened. The first 72 hours after the post went live were absolute chaos. Adrian's phone wouldn't stop ringing. His email crashed twice. The mansion's front gate became a circus. Reporters camped outside with cameras, self-proclaimed healers showed up with crystals and incense, religious groups held prayer circles on the sidewalk, and one guy even tried to scale the fence dressed as a superhero before security tackled him into the rose bushes. Marcus Bennett, Adrian's head of security and closest thing to a friend, stood in the study shaking his head. This was a mistake. I know. Adrian didn't look up from his laptop. Applications were flooding in, thousands of them. Life coaches, child psychologists, hypnotists, a woman from Sweden who claimed she could communicate with children through interpretive dance, another who said she'd cured her own daughter's trauma with organic beetroot juice. You can't actually be reading these. What else am I supposed to do? Adrian's voice cracked slightly. He was running on maybe 6 hours of sleep across 3 days, surviving on black coffee and the kind of desperate hope that makes people do irrational things. Marcus moved closer, lowering his voice. The board called again. They're getting nervous about the publicity. Let them be nervous. Adrian, I said let them be nervous, Marcus. Adrian finally looked up and his eyes were bloodshot, hollow. I built that company from nothing. I made every single one of them rich. They can give me this. Marcus didn't argue. He'd known Adrian for 15 years, since back when Cole Industries was just 3 guys in a rented office trying to pitch software nobody wanted. He'd watched Adrian claw his way up from middle-class obscurity to become one of the youngest billionaires in the country. He'd also watched Adrian's wife die 2 years ago, watched him try to hold everything together for Elena, watched him slowly realize that success in business meant absolutely nothing when your kid was suffering. What about the legitimate applications? Marcus asked. Dr. Chen's team flagged about 40 that seemed credible. Send them through the standard vetting, background checks, credentials verification, interviews with references. Adrian rubbed his eyes. But honestly, I don't think credentials matter anymore. Every qualified person we've tried has failed. That was the brutal truth. In the 4 months since Elena stopped talking, Adrian had hired the best child psychologists in the country. Dr. Patricia Whitmore from Johns Hopkins. Dr. Raymond Foster, who'd written 3 books on childhood trauma. Dr. Sarah Kim, who specialized in selective mutism. They'd all failed. Some lasted weeks. Some lasted days. Elena wouldn't engage with any of them. The silence had started after a school incident nobody would fully explain. Elena's teacher, Mrs. Morrison, had called Adrian at work, her voice tight with concern. There was an altercation with another student. Elena's fine physically, but something's changed. She won't talk about it. She won't talk at all. Adrian had left a board meeting mid-presentation, driven 90 in a 65 zone to get to the school. He'd found Elena sitting alone in the nurse's office, staring at nothing. Her backpack was torn. There was a small bruise on her arm. But what terrified him most was her face, completely blank, like someone had reached inside and switched off a light. Elena, baby, what happened? Nothing. Did someone hurt you? Nothing. Please, just tell Daddy what's wrong. She'd looked at him then, and for a second he thought she might speak. But instead she'd just turned away and stared at the wall until he finally picked her up and carried her to the car. That was September. Now it was January, and she still hadn't said a word. The mansion had become unbearable. It was a 12,000-square-foot monument to success that now felt like a prison. Adrian had bought it after his first major acquisition, back when he and Victoria were still married, when Elena was 3 and everything seemed possible. Victoria had loved it, the grand staircase, The chandelier imported from France, the library with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the garden. Now Victoria was gone, taken by an aggressive cancer that killed her in 7 months. And Elena was somewhere else. Present but absent. There but not there. Adrian walked through the halls at night and heard nothing. No laughter, no footsteps. No voice calling "Daddy" when he came home. Just silence, thick and suffocating. He tried everything. Gentleness didn't work. Patience didn't work. Desperately begging didn't work. Getting angry didn't work. And the shame of that still kept him up at night. The memory of raising his voice in frustration, only to watch Elena's face go even more blank, even more distant. The hired help tried their best. Maria, the housekeeper who'd been with them for 6 years, would make Elena's favorite foods and leave them outside her door. Sometimes Elena ate them. Sometimes she didn't. Mrs. Chen, the day nurse Adrian had hired when the situation became critical, managed the basics, made sure Elena bathed, changed clothes, took her vitamins, but she couldn't make Elena live, she could only make her survive. And now there was this post, this public plea that had turned his private tragedy into international news. Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and frowned. "You need to see this." He pulled up a news segment on his tablet. A blonde anchor with 2 white teeth smiled into the camera. Tech billionaire Adrian Cole's unusual offer has sparked debate about parenting, privilege, and the ethics of outsourcing family problems. We're joined now by Dr. Harold Weston, child development specialist. Adrian snatched the tablet and turned it off. "I don't care what they think. You should care what the court thinks." Marcus's voice went serious. "Victoria's sister called my assistant this morning. She's talking to lawyers." Adrian's stomach dropped. "Diane? She thinks you're unfit, says posting that offer proves you're having a breakdown, that Elena needs stability, that maybe she should file for custody. That's insane. Is it?" Marcus met his eyes. "Because from the outside, this looks pretty erratic." Adrian stood abruptly, walked to the window. Outside, a news van was doing a live broadcast from his front gate. Beyond that, the city sprawled in every direction. Millions of people going about their lives, completely unaware that his entire world was collapsing. "Victoria made me promise something," he said quietly. "The night before she died. She was barely conscious, couldn't even sit up anymore, but she grabbed my hand so tight it hurt, and she said, 'Don't let her disappear. Promise me you won't let our baby disappear.'" Marcus didn't respond. "I promised her." Adrian's voice broke. "I promised I'd take care of Elena. I promised I wouldn't let her get lost. And I'm failing. Every single day I'm failing, and I can feel Elena slipping away, and I don't know how to stop it." The silence stretched between them. Finally, Marcus said, "So what do we do?" "We see every single person who applied. I don't care if it takes months. We keep trying until something works." "And if nothing works?" Adrian didn't have an answer for that. Across town, in a neighborhood where broken streetlights never got fixed and sirens were background noise, Clara Hayes was trying to make her paycheck stretch further than physics allowed. Rent, $1,100. Due in 4 days. Groceries, maybe $150 if she was careful. Utilities, $80. Lily's school supplies, $40. Medicine for Lily's asthma, $65. Even with the discount pharmacy. That left exactly negative $35. Clara sat at her kitchen table, a hand-me-down that wobbled even with a folded napkin under one leg, and did the math again. Same answer. She was short. Again. "Aunt Clara?" Lily appeared in the doorway, clutching her stuffed rabbit. She was 6 years old, small for her age, with her mother's dark curls and her father's serious eyes. "Are we okay?" Clara immediately shifted her expression, forced brightness into her voice. "Of course, sweetheart. Everything's fine. Why aren't you asleep?" "I heard you sighing." Kids noticed everything. Clara closed the calculator app on her phone and pulled out the chair next to her. "Come here." Lily climbed up, rabbit and all. She smelled like the cheap lavender soap Clara bought in bulk, and her pajamas, decorated with faded unicorns, were getting too small. Clara made a mental note to check the thrift store again this weekend. "I'm just doing boring adult stuff," Clara said. "Nothing for you to worry about." "Is it about money?" Clara's heart squeezed. Lily shouldn't have to think about money. She should be thinking about dolls and cartoons and what her teacher said that was funny. But when your mother dies in a car accident and your father runs off before you're even born, and your aunt is 24 years old working double shifts just to keep the lights on, you grow up fast. Clara's sister Rachel had made her promise too. Different deathbed, different promise, same desperation. They'd been in the ICU, machines beeping, Rachel barely hanging on after 3 days in a coma. She'd opened her eyes just long enough to whisper, "Take care of her. Promise me. Promise me you'll take care of my baby." Clara had been 24, single, working as a waitress and barely making rent on a studio apartment. She'd had plans, vague ones, but plans. Maybe go back to school, maybe travel, maybe figure out who she was before life decided for her. Instead, she became a mother overnight. Not legally, not technically, but in every way that mattered. That was 2 years ago. 2 years of struggling, surviving, sacrificing everything so Lily could have something resembling childhood. 2 years of telling herself it would get easier, even though it never really did. "We always figure it out," Clara told Lily now, smoothing her hair back. "You know that, right? We always land on our feet." Lily nodded, but she was too smart to fully believe it. Clara sent her back to bed, then returned to her phone. She had 3 jobs. Mornings at a dry cleaner, afternoons cleaning offices for a contract company, evenings waitressing at a diner when she could get shifts. None paid enough. All were exhausting. She scrolled through her email looking for anything, more hours, a different job, a miracle. What she found instead was a message from her office cleaning supervisor. "Clara, we're adding the Coal Industries building to your route starting Monday. Big account. They requested someone reliable. 5 days a week, 6 to 9 p.m. Overtime available. Interested?" Claire's fingers hesitated over the keyboard. Coal Industries. She'd heard that name recently, hadn't she? Something on the news while she was getting ready for work. Some story about... She Googled it. The headlines came up immediately. "Billionaire offers half-fortune for daughter's happiness. Adrian Cole's desperate plea goes viral. Coal Industries CEO under fire for public parenting offer." Clara read through one of the articles. A widower. A daughter who stopped talking. A father so desperate he'd turned to the internet for help. The comments section was predictably brutal. Rich people think money solves everything. This is what happens when you ignore your kids. Attention-seeking behavior. Disgusting. My heart breaks for that little girl. Clara closed the browser. She didn't have time for other people's problems, even if something about the story made her chest ache. She had her own kid to worry about. She replied to her supervisor, "Yes, I'll take it. Thank you." 3 days later, Clara showed up for her first shift at Coal Industries headquarters. The building was downtown, all glass and steel, and the kind of aggressive modernity that screamed money. Clara took the service entrance, checked in with security, got her badge and access codes. The supervisor walked her through the route. Executive offices on the 32nd floor, conference rooms on 28 and 29, break rooms on every floor, bathrooms everywhere. "Cole himself doesn't come in much anymore, the supervisor said. "You probably won't see him, but keep things perfect anyway. He's detail-oriented." Clara nodded. She was good at invisible, good at slipping in, doing the work, slipping out without anyone noticing she'd been there. It was a survival skill she'd developed over years of being poor in spaces designed for rich people. The work was straightforward: vacuum, dust, empty trash, wipe down surfaces, restock supplies, repeat. She moved through the floors methodically, efficiently. The offices were nice, the kind of nice where even the trash cans probably cost more than her monthly rent. Expensive art on the walls, computers with multiple monitors, coffee machines that looked like they belonged in a European cafe. It was on the 32nd floor, the executive level, where she found it. Adrian Cole's office was at the end of the hall, corner location with windows on 2 walls overlooking the city. Clara had been instructed to clean it last, to be extra careful with everything. She keyed in, pushed her cart inside, and stopped. The office was a mess. Not dirty, but chaotic. Papers everywhere. Coffee cups on every surface, some still half full. A jacket thrown over a chair. An iPad on the floor. The trash can overflowing. And on the desk, half hidden under a stack of reports, a child's drawing. Clara shouldn't have looked. It wasn't her business. But something made her set down her spray bottle and pick it up carefully. It was simple. Crayon on construction paper. A stick figure girl with long dark hair standing next to a stick figure man with yellow hair. They were holding hands. The sun was yellow and smiling in the corner. At the bottom, in careful child's handwriting. Me and Daddy. Clara's throat went tight. She set it down exactly where she'd found it, then started cleaning around it. She was emptying the trash when she heard voices in the hallway. Don't care what the PR team says, Marcus. I'm not issuing an apology for trying to help my daughter. I'm not asking you to apologize. I'm asking you to give a statement that clarifies your intentions so people stop calling you negligent. People can call me whatever they want. The voices got closer. Clara's pulse spiked. She wasn't supposed to interact with executives. Her supervisor had been clear. Be invisible, be quiet, be gone. But before she could grab her cart and duck into the hallway bathroom, two men walked in. Adrian Cole looked worse than his photos. Older. Thinner. His expensive suit didn't quite hide how exhausted he was. The other man, Marcus, apparently, was built like he used to play football, dressed more casually, carrying himself like someone used to managing problems. They both stopped when they saw Clara. "Oh," Adrian said. "I didn't realize. I'm sorry." Clara immediately started backing toward her cart. "I was just finishing up. No, it's fine. Stay." Adrian waved her off distractedly, already moving toward his desk. He grabbed a file folder, flipped through it. "Marcus, the team from Boston, did they send their proposal?" "This morning. It's in your email." "I haven't checked my email in 2 days." "I know. That's why I'm here." Clara tried to be invisible, kept working quietly, cleaning the coffee table, straightening magazines. But she couldn't help overhearing. "Another 12 applications came in overnight," Marcus said. "Dr. Chen's team flagged 3 as worth interviewing. Set them up." "Adrian, you've interviewed 26 people in 4 days. You need to sleep." "I'll sleep when Elena talks." There was something in his voice, not anger exactly, but a kind of exhaustion that went bone deep. Clara recognized it. She'd heard it in her own voice 2 years ago, in those first months after Rachel died, when Lily would wake up screaming for her mama, and Clara had no idea how to make anything better. She finished the coffee table, moved to the windows, tried not to listen, failed. "What about the woman from California?" Adrian was asking. "The art therapist?" She withdrew her application, said the media attention was too intense. Of course she did. "And the board meeting tomorrow? Cancel it. You can't keep canceling board meetings. Watch me." Claire could feel the tension in the room, thick enough to choke on. She worked faster, wanting to be done, wanting to be out of there. This wasn't her world. These weren't her problems. She had enough of her own. But then Adrian said something that made her freeze. "I just want my daughter back, Marcus. That's all. I just want her back." His voice cracked on the last word. The silence that followed was awful. Clara kept her eyes on the window she was cleaning, her reflection ghost-like in the glass. In it, she could see Adrian Cole, billionaire CEO, standing in the middle of his expensive office with his shoulders slumped and his head down, looking like the loneliest person in the world. She knew that look. She'd seen it in the mirror often enough. "Sir," Marcus said quietly, "maybe you should go home. Home." Adrian laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "You know what's at home, Marcus? Silence. Just silence everywhere. That house used to be loud. Elena used to sing made-up songs while she played, used to tell me about her day at dinner, every single detail, even the boring parts. Used to run to the door when I came home from work, shouting, 'Daddy's here!' like it was the best thing that ever happened to her. Now I come home and there's nothing. Just echoes and empty rooms and a daughter who looks at me like I'm a stranger." Clara's hand stilled on the glass. "I should go with you," Marcus said. "Make sure you actually rest." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You haven't been fine in months." "None of us are fine, Marcus. That's the point." Clara finished the window, packed up her supplies. She needed to leave. This was too intimate, too raw. She wasn't supposed to be witnessing this. But as she reached for her cart, Adrian suddenly turned toward her. "Wait," he said. Clara froze. Sir? He was looking at her like he was actually seeing her for the first time. You're new. Yes, sir. First week. What's your name? Clara Hayes. He nodded slowly, and for a second, something flickered across his face, some thought, some calculation. Then it was gone. Thank you for cleaning. The office looks good. You're welcome. She meant to leave then, should have left. But something made her hesitate, and before she could stop herself, words came out. I hope things get better. With your daughter. The look he gave her was complicated, surprised, suspicious, desperate. You know about that. It wasn't a question. Everyone knows about that, Clara said quietly. It's all over the news. Right. His jaw tightened. Of course. For what it's worth. Clara knew she should shut up, knew she was overstepping, but she'd started now and something in her couldn't stop. My niece went through something similar after her mom died. She didn't stop talking exactly, but she pulled away, got really quiet, really distant. Adrian's full attention was on her now. How long did it last? A while. Months. Clara shifted her weight, uncomfortable. Everyone kept telling me to get her professional help, take her to therapists, get her on medication, and I tried some of that, but mostly, I just stayed. That's all I could afford to do anyway. Just be there, be consistent, be patient. Did it work? Eventually. She's okay now. Good days and bad days, but mostly okay. Adrian stared at her for a long moment, then, You said you couldn't afford professional help. Clara's defenses went up immediately. I didn't mean, no, I'm not judging. I'm just, he ran a hand through his hair. Everyone I've hired has credentials, degrees, years of experience, and none of them have helped. But you're saying you helped your niece without any of that? I'm saying I survived it. We both did. That's different from fixing it. Maybe fixing isn't the point. Marcus was watching this exchange with narrowed eyes like he couldn't quite figure out what was happening. Clara needed to go. This conversation was getting weird, and she had a schedule to keep. I should finish my rounds. Right, yes, of course. Adrian seemed to shake himself out of whatever he'd been thinking. Thank you again. Clara nodded, grabbed her cart, headed for the door. Clara. She turned back. Adrian was looking at her with an expression she couldn't read. I know this is going to sound strange, but would you be willing to talk more about your niece? About what helped? Every alarm bell in Clara's head went off. I'm not qualified to give advice about kids, Mr. Cole. I barely know what I'm doing with my own. I'm not asking for advice. I'm desperate enough to listen to anyone at this point. And something about what you said, he trailed off. Never mind. Forget I asked. It's inappropriate. Clara should have agreed, should have left it there. But something about the raw hope in his voice caught her. I work here 5 nights a week, she heard herself say. 6 to 9. If you want to talk while I'm cleaning, I guess I can't stop you from being in your own office. It was a compromise, a way to help without committing to anything official, a way to ease the guilt she felt for having such an easy kid when his daughter was suffering. Adrian's expression shifted, something like relief crossing his features. Thank you. Clara just nodded and left before she could do anything else stupid. In the elevator ride down, she leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. What had she just agreed to? What was she thinking? She didn't have time to be some billionaire's free therapist. She had 3 jobs, a kid to raise, rent that was always due. But she kept thinking about that drawing on his desk, me and Daddy, in careful crayon letters. She kept thinking about how his voice had broken when he said he just wanted his daughter back. She kept thinking about those first terrible months with Lily, when grief was drowning both of them, and Clara had no idea how to save either of them. The elevator doors opened. Clara pushed her cart out into the service corridor, headed for the next floor on her route. She'd talk to him. Once, maybe twice. Share what little she knew, then she'd be done. Back to her own life, her own problems. It would be fine. Everything would be fine. She didn't know yet that she'd just stepped into something that would change all of their lives. Didn't know that simple conversations in an office after hours would lead to something none of them expected. Didn't know that sometimes the people who save you are the ones who walked in with nothing. All she knew was that Adrian Cole's pain reminded her of her own, and she'd survived hers, and maybe, just maybe, she could help him survive his. Even if only a little, even if only for a moment. That would have to be enough. Clara didn't see Adrian Cole again for 3 days. She cleaned his office every night, the same routine, the same careful attention to detail. But he was never there. Just the evidence of him. More coffee cups, more scattered papers, that drawing still on his desk, exactly where she'd left it. She'd catch herself looking at it sometimes, wondering if the little girl who'd made it would ever draw again. On Thursday night, she was vacuuming the conference room on the 28th floor when her phone buzzed. Lily's school. Clara's stomach dropped as she pulled off her gloves and answered. Ms. Hayes, this is Principal Dawson. Lily had an asthma attack during PE. She's okay now, but we had to use her emergency inhaler and our policy requires, I'm coming. Clara was already yanking off her cleaning apron, grabbing her bag. I'm coming right now. She called her supervisor from the elevator, explained the emergency, promised to make up the hours. Then she was running through the lobby, past security, out into the cold January night. The bus would take 40 minutes. She couldn't afford a cab, but took one anyway because Lily needed her and nothing else mattered. By the time she got to the school, Lily was sitting in the nurse's office with color back in her face, swinging her legs and looking embarrassed. I'm fine, she said when Clara burst through the door. They're being dramatic. She's fine, the nurse confirmed, but you should follow up with her doctor. This is her 3rd attack this month. Clara knew. She knew exactly how many attacks Lily had been having, knew the triggers, knew the prescribed treatment plan that included a daily controller medication they couldn't afford. The emergency inhaler was cheaper, riskier, but cheaper. I will, Clara lied. Thank you. She took Lily home, made her tea, got her settled on the couch with her homework. Then she sat at the kitchen table and looked at bills she couldn't pay and a bank account that was laughing at her and tried to figure out what to do. The controller medication was $200 a month, even with the discount program. $200 she didn't have. $200 that stood between Lily and breathing properly. Clara put her head in her hands and tried not to scream. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Clara Hayes? A woman's voice, professional, clipped. Yes? This is Jennifer Chen from Cole Industries HR. Mr. Cole requested I reach out to you regarding a potential opportunity. Clara's brain stuttered. I'm sorry, what? He'd like to offer you a position. It's unconventional, but the compensation is substantial. Would you be available to come in tomorrow to discuss details? I don't understand. I already work there. I'm on the cleaning crew. This would be a different role. I can't discuss specifics over the phone, but I can tell you it involves his daughter. He mentioned you'd spoken about your experience with your niece? Everything clicked into place. Clara's first instinct was to say no. Absolutely not. She'd offered to talk, not to get involved, not to take a job that would probably blow up in her face. But then she looked at the bills spread across her table, looked at Lily asleep on the couch, her inhaler on the coffee table next to her. What kind of compensation are we talking about? Clara heard herself ask. I'm not authorized to quote numbers, but I can assure you it would be competitive, which meant nothing. Competitive could mean anything. I have a shift tomorrow night, Clara said. I can't miss it. Mr. Cole suggested meeting during your shift. His office, 7 p.m. Clara closed her eyes. This was a mistake. She could feel it in her bones, but she could also feel the weight of bills that wouldn't pay themselves and medicine Lily needed and rent that was due in 2 days. I'll be there, she said. The next evening, Clara showed up for her shift at Cole Industries with her stomach in knots. She went through her usual routine on the lower floors, but at 7 o'clock sharp, she took the elevator to 32. Adrian was waiting in his office. So was Marcus and a woman in an expensive suit who introduced herself as Jennifer Chen. They'd arranged chairs around the coffee table, the same one Clara had cleaned dozens of times. Thank you for coming, Adrian said. He looked slightly better than last time. Still exhausted, but showered at least, wearing a fresh shirt. Please, sit. Clara sat. She was acutely aware of her cleaning uniform, the smell of disinfectant probably clinging to her, the gap between her world and theirs. Jennifer pulled out a tablet. Mr. Cole has explained your conversation earlier this week. He's impressed by your experience with your niece and would like to offer you a trial position as a companion for his daughter. A companion, Claire repeated. Not a nanny, Adrian clarified quickly. Not a therapist or specialist, just someone to be there, someone Elena might connect with. You have 26 qualified professionals on file, Clara said. Why me? Because they haven't worked. Adrian leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Every expert I've hired has treated Elena like a problem to solve. They analyze her, test her, try to diagnose what's broken so they can fix it. And she shuts down completely. And you think I'd be different because you said your niece pulled away after trauma, and you just stayed. You didn't try to fix her. You just stayed. He paused. That's what Elena needs, someone who won't treat her like she's broken. Marcus spoke up for the first time. We're talking about a trial period, 2 weeks, live-in position. You'd have your own quarters in the residence, full access to the house and grounds, no specific duties beyond being present and available. Live-in. Clara's mind raced. I have a niece. I can't just leave her. Bring her, Sin, Adrian said immediately. Clara blinked. What? Bring your niece. There's plenty of room. She'd have her own bedroom, access to everything. We have a pool, a library, a media room. The school district is excellent. I could arrange a transfer if needed. You want me to move into your house with a 6-year-old you've never met? I want you to try to help my daughter, however that needs to happen. Jennifer cleared her throat. The compensation would be $15,000 for the 2-week trial. If it works and both parties agree to continue, we'd negotiate a longer-term contract. Clara's ears rang. $15,000 for 2 weeks. That was more than she made in 6 months across all 3 jobs combined. This is insane, she said. I know, Hiti, Adrian agreed, but I'm out of options. You don't know anything about me. I could be anyone. We ran a background check, Marcus said, not apologetically. You're clean, good rental history, no criminal record, solid employment references. Your financial situation is desperate, Clara finished. You were going to say desperate. I was going to say challenging. Same thing. Clara stood up, needing to move, to think. This was too much, too fast. Mr. Cole, I appreciate the offer, but I'm not qualified for this. I'm a cleaning lady. I barely graduated high school. I have no training in child psychology or trauma or whatever Elena's dealing with. Good, Adrian said. The trained people failed. That doesn't mean I'll succeed. It probably means nobody can succeed. Then I'll have lost 2 weeks and $15,000. I've lost more on worse investments. Clara turned to face him. This isn't an investment. This is your daughter. I know exactly what this is. His voice went hard. I know I'm throwing money at a problem that money probably can't fix. I know I sound desperate and ridiculous and like every terrible rich person stereotype. I know all of that. But I also know that when you talked about your niece, something in the way you said it made sense to me. More sense than anything the experts have said in 4 months. The room fell silent. Clara thought about Lily, about the medication she needed, about rent that was due tomorrow and bills that kept piling up. She thought about $200 she didn't have and $15,000 she did if she just said yes. But she also thought about a little girl she'd never met, silent and suffering in a mansion full of people who couldn't reach her. She thought about that drawing on Adrian's desk and how her own heart had broken looking at it. Can I think about it? She asked finally. How long do you need? 24 hours. Adrian nodded. That's fair. Clara left the office, finished her shift on autopilot, took the bus home. Lily was already asleep. Their neighbor Mrs. Park had been watching her, same as every night. Clara paid her $20 she couldn't spare and thanked her. Then she sat on the couch in the dark and tried to make sense of the choice in front of her. The smart thing was obvious. Take the money. Move into the mansion for 2 weeks, do her best to help, collect the paycheck. Even if she failed completely, $15,000 would change her life. Pay off debt. Build a savings account. Get Lily's medication. Maybe even take a real day off for once. But there was risk too. What if she made things worse? What if Elena hated her? What if Adrian turned out to be unstable? or dangerous, or just impossible to work with? What if living in that world for 2 weeks made coming back to this one unbearable? Claire's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. I know you're thinking about all the ways this could go wrong. I'm thinking about them too, but I'm also thinking about my daughter who used to laugh at everything and now doesn't laugh at all, who used to tell me stories and now won't say a word. If there's even a chance you could help her, I have to take it. Please consider it. Adrian. Clara stared at the message for a long time. Then she texted back, I'll do the trial, but I have conditions. His response came immediately. Name them. 1. If at any point I think I'm making things worse, I leave. No questions. Full payment anyway. Agreed. 2. Lily comes with me. Her schedule stays normal, same school if possible, same routines. She doesn't get disrupted more than necessary. Agreed. I'll have my assistant arrange the school transfer tomorrow. 3. You don't treat me like an employee. If I'm doing this, I do it my way. You can't micromanage or override my decisions about how to approach Elena. There was a longer pause this time. That's the hardest one, but agreed. 4. When this doesn't work, because it probably won't, you don't blame me. You knew the risks. Fair enough? When do you start? Clara looked around her tiny apartment, at the water stain on the ceiling she'd stopped noticing years ago, at the secondhand furniture and the kitchen table that wobbled and the life she'd built from nothing that was still somehow not enough. Monday, she typed. I need the weekend to get Lily ready and pack. Thank you, Clara. I mean that. She didn't respond to that, just set her phone down and went to check on Lily, who was sleeping peacefully, her inhaler within reach, her stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. I hope I'm doing the right thing, Clara whispered into the dark. The rabbit, unsurprisingly, had no answer. The weekend passed in a blur. Clara gave notice at her other jobs. They weren't happy, but what could they do? She packed their belongings, which didn't take long because they didn't own much. She explained to Lily what was happening in the simplest terms she could manage. We're going to stay with someone for a little while, Clara said Saturday morning over breakfast. A man who needs help with his daughter. She's having a hard time and he thinks maybe we can help. Lily looked up from her cereal. Why us? Because I told him about when your mom died and how you were sad for a while, and he thought maybe his daughter would feel better around people who understand being sad. Is she my age? Older. 8, I think. Will she like me? Clara's heart squeezed. I don't know, honey. She might not want to talk to anyone at first, but we're going to be patient and kind, okay? Just like we always are. Lily nodded seriously. Okay. And the house we're staying in is really big. You'll have your own room, there's a library and a pool and all kinds of stuff. Like a castle? Kind of like a castle, yeah. Cool. Lily went back to her cereal, unconcerned. 6-year-olds adapted so easily. Clara wished she could do the same. Sunday evening, a black car arrived, sent by Adrian, driven by a man named Thomas, who handled their bags with professional courtesy and didn't ask questions. Lily was thrilled by the car, pressed her nose to the window the entire drive, pointing out buildings and lights and everything they passed. Clara's stomach got tighter with every mile. The mansion was in the hills, set back from the road behind iron gates that opened automatically. The driveway curved through perfectly manicured grounds, past fountain and gardens that probably cost more to maintain than Clara's annual salary. Then the house itself came into view, and Lily gasped. It's a real castle, she breathed. It wasn't, but Clara understood the confusion. The house was massive, all stone and glass, lit from within so it glowed against the darkening sky, beautiful and intimidating in equal measure. Thomas pulled up to the front entrance. The door opened before they'd even gotten out of the car, and Marcus appeared, followed by a woman in her 60s wearing an apron. Welcome, Marcus said. His smile seemed genuine. Clara, Lily, this is Maria, the housekeeper. She'll show you to your rooms. Maria's face was kind, weathered by years of work, but softened by warmth. Come in, come in. You must be tired from the drive. The entrance hall was exactly as overwhelming as Clara had feared. Marble floors, soaring ceiling, that chandelier she'd read about in the architectural magazine piece someone had written about the house years ago. Lily's hand tightened in Clara's. It's okay, Clara murmured. Just a house. Fancier than ours, but still just a house. Maria led them through a maze of hallways to a wing Clara hadn't even known existed from the outside. This is the guest wing, Maria explained. You'll have privacy here. Your rooms are connected. Clara, you're in here, and Lily, you're right through this door. Clara's room was bigger than her entire apartment. King bed, sitting area, private bathroom with a tub that could fit 4 people. Lily's room was decorated in soft purples and grays, with a canopy bed and built-in bookshelves already stocked with age-appropriate books. Mr. Cole had his assistant order those, Maria said, noticing Clara's look. He wasn't sure what Lily liked, so she got a variety. This is too much, Clara said. Mister, Cole doesn't do things by halves. Maria smiled. Dinner's at 7. I'll come get you. Elena usually takes her meals in her room, but Mr. Cole thought tonight you might want to meet separately first. After Maria left, Lily explored every inch of her new room, while Clara stood in the doorway and tried to process what she'd agreed to. Aunt Clara? Lily appeared with a book about horses. Can you read to me? Of course, sweetheart. They curled up on Lily's enormous bed, and Clara read about wild mustangs and open plains, and for a little while she could almost forget where they were and why. Dinner was awkward. Adrian, Marcus, Clara, and Lily sat at one end of a dining table that could easily seat 20. Maria served pasta, simple, kid-friendly, which Clara appreciated. Adrian tried to make conversation, but he was clearly out of practice talking to children. So, Lily, he said, your aunt tells me you like to draw. Lily nodded shyly, not quite meeting his eyes. Elena used to draw all the time. Maybe you could draw together sometime. Maybe, Lily said quietly. An uncomfortable silence fell. Clara jumped in. Where's Elena now? Her room, Adrian said. 3rd floor, east wing. Mrs. Chen, the nurse, is with her. She usually reads or does puzzles in the evening. Doesn't sleep well, but she tries. Does she know we're here? I told her this morning that some people were coming to stay for a while. She didn't respond. He set down his fork. She hasn't responded to much of anything in weeks. After dinner, Maria showed Lily the media room and put on a movie while Clara and Adrian talked in his study. It was smaller than his office, more comfortable. Lived in. Books on the shelves that looked actually read. Photos on the desk. Him and Victoria on their wedding day. Elena as a baby. The 3 of them at the beach. Ground rules, Clara said, staying standing because sitting felt too casual. I need to know what's already been tried. Every approach, every failure. I don't want to repeat mistakes. Fair. Adrian pulled out a folder, handed it to her. This is every specialist's report from the past 4 months, their methods, their conclusions, why they didn't work. Clara flipped through it. The folder was thick. You kept detailed notes. I keep detailed notes on everything. It's how I work. Okay. Second thing, I need you to stop hovering. I saw you watching during dinner. Elena will sense that kind of pressure. I wasn't hovering. You were definitely hovering. He almost smiled. Almost. Fine. I'll try to be less obvious about it. Third thing, tell me about the incident at school, the one that started all this. Adrian's expression shuddered. I don't know much. The school wouldn't give details, student privacy laws, but you must have some idea. He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful. Elena came home with a torn backpack and a bruise. She wouldn't explain. I called the school, talked to the principal, the teacher, even the counselor. All they'd say was there'd been an altercation with another student, that it was being handled, and that Elena wasn't in trouble. Did you push? Of course I pushed. I'm not... He stopped himself. Yes, I pushed. Hard. Threatened lawyers, threatened to pull funding for the new gymnasium I donated money toward. They still wouldn't budge. So you don't actually know what happened? No. Clara absorbed that. Have you asked Elena directly? Every day for 2 weeks, then I stopped because I realized I was making it worse. What about her friends? Other kids who might know. Elena didn't have many friends. She was... He hesitated. She was always a little different, quiet, bookish, preferred drawing to sports. The other kids didn't really get her. That must have been lonely. Victoria worried about it. I told her Elena was fine, that some kids are just introverted, that she'd find her people eventually. His voice went rough. I was wrong about a lot of things. Clara wanted to say something comforting, but comfort felt dishonest. She didn't know if he was wrong, didn't know if anyone could have prevented whatever happened to Elena. I'd like to meet her tomorrow, Clara said instead, casually. No pressure, no expectations, just an introduction. How do you want to handle it? I don't know yet. I'll figure it out in the morning. That night, Clara lay in the enormous bed in her enormous room and stared at the ceiling. She could hear Lily breathing through the connecting door, soft, steady, the sound that always told Clara everything was okay. But everything wasn't okay. She was in a stranger's house, about to try to help a child she'd never met with trauma she didn't understand, and she had no idea what she was doing. The smart thing would be to leave tomorrow, take Lily, apologize, admit this was a mistake. But then she thought about Adrian's face when he talked about Elena. The desperate hope. The bone-deep exhaustion. She thought about that drawing. Me and Daddy. She thought about $200 for medication and $15,000 that could change Lily's life. But mostly, she thought about those first terrible months with Lily, when grief was drowning them both, and Clara had no idea how to save either of them. She thought about all the people who could have helped but didn't. All the people who saw them struggling and looked away. And she thought about how she'd promised herself she'd never be one of those people, never be someone who saw suffering and chose comfort instead. So she'd stay. At least for now. At least long enough to try. Even if trying meant failing. Even if failing meant heartbreak. At least she'd have tried. In the morning, everything would begin. The real work. The impossible task. The desperate hope that maybe, somehow, she could reach a little girl everyone else had given up on. But tonight, she just lay in the dark and listened to Lily breathe and tried to convince herself she hadn't made a terrible mistake. Tomorrow would tell her if she had. Clara woke to sunlight streaming through windows she'd forgotten to close and Lily standing beside her bed, already dressed, holding her stuffed rabbit. "Can we explore?" Lily whispered. Clara checked her phone. 6:30. Early, but not unreasonably so. "Let me get dressed first." They ventured out together hand in hand through hallways that seemed different in daylight. Less intimidating somehow, though still enormous. They found the kitchen, a massive space with commercial-grade appliances and marble countertops, where Maria was already working, pulling fresh bread from the oven. "Good morning," Maria said warmly. "You're up early." "We're used to early," Clara said. "I hope it's okay that This is your home for now. Come, sit. I'll make breakfast." Lily climbed onto a bar stool, swinging her legs. "Do you live here too?" "I have an apartment over the garage," Maria said. "Been here 12 years now. Watched Elena grow up." Something sad crossed her face. Such a sweet child. Always drawing me pictures, helping me fold laundry even though she didn't need to. "Does she still draw?" Claire asked carefully. "Not that I've seen. Not in months." Maria cracked eggs into a pan. Mrs. Chen tries to get her to do activities, puzzles, reading, anything, but mostly Elena just sits, stares out her window. What does she look at? The garden, I think. There's a magnolia tree she used to love. She'd climb it sometimes, sit up there for hours reading books. Maria's hands moved efficiently, whisking eggs. Mr. Cole had a fence built around it after she stopped talking, afraid she'd climb it and fall with no one knowing. Lily was listening intently, her eyes wide. Clara squeezed her hand gently. They ate breakfast, scrambled eggs, fresh bread, fruit that actually tasted like something instead of the watery grocery store kind Clara usually bought. Lily demolished her plate, then asked if she could see the library. "I'll show you," Maria offered. "Mr. Cole had to leave early for a meeting, but he said to tell you the house is yours to explore. Elena's room is off limits unless she invites you, but everything else is fair game." The library was 2 stories tall, walls lined with books, a spiral staircase leading to the upper level. Lily made a sound that was pure joy and immediately started pulling books off shelves, examining covers, reading first lines. Clara watched her, something loosening in her chest. Whatever happened with Elena, at least Lily would have this. 2 weeks in a place where she could read all the books she wanted, sleep in a bed that didn't have a broken spring, breathe air that wasn't thick with stress about money. She's a reader, Maria observed. Like her mother was. Clara hadn't meant to say that out loud. Good memories? Complicated ones. Clara ran her fingers along a shelf. My sister and I were close, but we were different. She was the dreamer, always had her nose in a book, always believed things would work out. I was the realist, the one who paid bills and made sure we ate. And now you're both. Now I'm trying to be both, yeah. Maria studied her for a moment. Mr. Cole told me what he's hoping you can do. I don't know if it's possible, but I hope it is. Elena deserves to be happy again. So does he, Clara said. He does, but he won't be. Not until she is. That's how parents work. Maria headed toward the door. I need to start lunch prep, but call if you need anything. The intercom system is in every room. After she left, Clara sat in one of the leather chairs and watched Lily explore. She should be planning her approach, strategizing how to meet Elena, preparing herself for what was probably going to be a disaster. Instead, she just sat and let herself have this moment of peace before everything got complicated. It lasted about 20 minutes. Then Lily came down the spiral staircase, clutching a book, and said, Aunt Clara, there's someone watching us. Clara's head snapped up. What? Upstairs. I saw her through the railing, a girl with dark hair. She was looking at me, but when I looked back, she left. Clara's pulse quickened. Show me. They climbed the spiral staircase together. The upper level was smaller, more intimate, with window seats and cozy reading nooks. Empty now, but one of the books on a side table was still open, as if someone had been interrupted mid-page. Clara walked to the window that overlooked the hallway outside. Through it, she could just make out a flash of movement, someone disappearing around a corner. Elena. Is that her? Lily asked quietly. The sad girl? I think so, yeah. She looks scared. Clara's heart squeezed. She probably is scared. We're strangers in her house. Should we say hi? Not yet. Let's let her get used to us being here first. But as they went back downstairs, Clara's mind was racing. Elena had come to look at them, had been curious enough to venture out of her room to observe them from a distance. That was something. Not much, but something. The morning passed quietly. Lily read in the library while Clara explored more of the house, getting her bearings. The place was too big, too empty for just two people. Rooms that probably hadn't been used in years. A music room with a piano that looked unplayed. A sunroom filled with plants that Maria must have been maintaining because they were thriving despite being neglected by everyone else. And everywhere, photos. Adrian and Victoria on their wedding day. Elena as a baby, as a toddler, as a little girl blowing out birthday candles. A family that had been happy once, before cancer and silence stole that away. Around 11, Mrs. Chen appeared, the nurse Clara had heard about. She was in her 50s, efficient-looking, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. You must be Clara, she said. I'm Helen Chen. I handle Elena's daily care. They shook hands. Helen's grip was firm, professional. How is she this morning? Clara asked. Same as always. Ate breakfast in her room. Worked on a puzzle for a while. Now she's at her window. She asked me who the little girl was. Helen paused. First question she's asked in 2 weeks. Clara felt a spark of something. Hope, maybe. What did you tell her? That you were staying here for a while, that the girl was your niece. She didn't ask anything else, but she listened. Can I ask you something? Off the record? Helen's expression shifted, became more guarded. Depends what it is. Do you think the professionals are helping? The specialists, the structured approaches? Helen was quiet for a long moment. Then, no. I think they're making her retreat further, but Mr. Cole pays me to follow their recommendations, not to give my opinion. I'm asking for your opinion now. My opinion? Helen's voice dropped. My opinion is that Elena needs less therapy and more life. Less people studying her like a problem, and more people just being with her. But what do I know? I'm just a nurse. You're the person who's with her every day, which is exactly why my opinion doesn't matter to most of these specialists. They think proximity equals bias. Helen checked her watch. I need to take Elena her lunch. She won't eat if it's late. Can I bring it instead? Helen's eyebrows went up. Mr. Cole said you were in charge, so I guess you can do what you want, but Elena doesn't respond well to new people. Then she'll ignore me, and I'll leave the food and go. At least I'll have tried. Helen considered this. Her room is 3rd floor, last door on the right. Knock before you enter. She hates when people just barge in. 20 minutes later, Clara was climbing the stairs to the 3rd floor carrying a lunch tray Maria had prepared. Grilled cheese cut into triangles, apple slices, carrot sticks with hummus. Simple, kid-friendly. The 3rd floor hallway was quieter than the rest of the house. Thick carpet muffled Clara's footsteps. Elena's door was closed, painted white, completely ordinary except for a small pencil drawing taped to it. A rough sketch of a magnolia tree. Clara knocked. Elena? My name is Clara. I'm bringing your lunch. No response. I'm going to leave it outside your door, okay? If you're hungry, it's there. Still nothing. Clara set the tray down carefully, started to walk away. Then, on impulse, she stopped. I brought my niece Lily with me, she said to the closed door. She's 6. She likes to read. This morning she found your library and nearly lost her mind over how many books you have. Just thought you should know someone's appreciating them. She waited 5 seconds. 10. Nothing. Clara went back downstairs. An hour later, Maria told her the tray was empty. Elena had taken it inside, eaten everything, left the tray back in the hallway. It was progress. Tiny, almost meaningless, but progress. Over the next 3 days, Clara established a routine. She brought Elena's meals, left them outside her door with a few words each time. Sometimes she talked about Lily. Sometimes about the weather. Sometimes she just said the food was there and left. Elena never responded, never opened the door while Clara was there, but she always took the tray, always ate. Adrian was around more than Clara expected. He'd come home for lunch, hover in the hallway near Elena's room without going in, ask Clara how things were going. She kept her answers short. She's eating. She took the tray faster today. No direct contact yet. He wanted more. She could see it in his face, the desperate hunger for hope. But she couldn't give him what she didn't have. Meanwhile, Lily was adjusting to the mansion like she'd lived there her whole life. She'd found the art supplies Maria kept in the craft room, spent hours drawing elaborate pictures of horses and castles. She'd discovered the pool, though it was too cold to swim. She'd made friends with Thomas the driver, who taught her chess in the garage apartment. And at night, she'd curl up with Clara and ask questions. Why doesn't Elena talk? I don't know, sweetheart. Is she sick? Not in her body, more in her feelings. Like when I was sad after Mama died? Something like that, yeah. But I got better. You did, and maybe Elena will too. What if she doesn't? Clara didn't have an answer for that. On the 4th day, Clara was bringing lunch when she heard something, crying. Soft, muffled, coming from behind Elena's door. She froze, tray in hand, heart pounding. Every instinct screamed to knock, to ask if Elena was okay, to help, but she forced herself to stay still, to listen. The crying continued for maybe 2 minutes, then stopped abruptly, like Elena had physically choked it off. Clara set down the tray very quietly. Then she went downstairs, found paper and a pen, and wrote a note. I heard you crying. You don't have to hide that. Crying is okay. It's how we let the hurt out. My niece cried for months after her mom died. I cried too. Some days I still do. You're not alone. Clara. She went back upstairs, slipped the note under Elena's door, and left. The tray was empty an hour later. The note was gone too. That night, Clara found a drawing slipped under her own door. Simple pencil sketch. A girl sitting by a window, looking at a tree. The girl's face was blank. No features, no expression. Just an outline. Clara picked it up with shaking hands and knew something had shifted. The next morning, she brought breakfast and another note. Thank you for the drawing. The tree is beautiful. Is that the magnolia in the garden? See, when she came back to collect the tray, there was a reply on the back of her note, written in careful child's handwriting. Yes. One word. But it was a word. Communication. Connection. Clara sat on the floor in the hallway and pressed the note to her chest and tried not to cry. She brought lunch with another note. I bet it's even prettier when it blooms. Do you like to climb it? The reply came faster this time. I used to. Dad won't let me anymore. Maybe he's just scared of losing you. I'm not going to fall. He's not scared of you falling from the tree. He's scared of you falling away from him. No response to that one. But the next morning, there was a new drawing under Clara's door. The same girl by the window, but this time she had a face. Still sad, still distant, but there, present. Clara showed it to Adrian that afternoon in his study. He stared at it for a full minute without speaking, his hands trembling slightly. She drew a face, he finally said. She did. She hasn't drawn faces in months. The therapist tried art therapy, but everything she drew was abstract, shapes and colors, nothing human. Maybe she needed someone who wasn't trying to analyze what she drew. Adrian looked up at her. You're doing something right. I'm doing something different. That's not the same as right. But over the next week, the notes continued. Short exchanges, nothing deep, but consistent. Elena would ask questions sometimes. What's your niece like? Clara would answer honestly. Stubborn, asks too many questions, cries at sad movies. Elena would respond. I used to cry at movies too. And slowly, so slowly Clara almost didn't notice it happening, Lily started appearing in the exchanges. It started when Lily left her own drawing outside Elena's door. A crayon picture of a horse with a rainbow mane. No note, just the picture. The next morning, it was pinned to Elena's door alongside the magnolia tree sketch. Then Lily left another. A castle this time, with a princess in the tower who had dark hair like Elena's. Elena left a drawing for Lily in return, a more sophisticated sketch of the same castle, with details Lily's 6-year-old hands couldn't manage. Lily was thrilled. She drew me a castle, Lily showed Clara, eyes shining. Can I give her another picture? I think she'd like that. They became pen pals, essentially, trading drawings, sometimes with little notes. Lily's handwriting was messy, enthusiastic. Elena's was careful, controlled, but they were communicating. Adrian watched this unfold with something like amazement. You used Lily. I didn't use anyone, Clara said sharply. Lily wanted to share her drawings. Elena responded. I just didn't stop it from happening. I didn't mean it like that. He ran his hands through his hair. Everyone I hired tried to connect with Elena directly, one-on-one, professional relationship. You brought a kid her own age and let them find each other. Lily's not her own age, she's younger. But she's not an adult telling Elena how to feel or what to do. She's just a kid who likes to draw. That matters. Maybe it did. Clara wasn't sure anymore. She was making this up as she went, following instinct rather than training. And it terrified her that everyone seemed to think she knew what she was doing. But Elena was engaging. That was undeniable. She ate every meal. She drew constantly. She responded to notes. She'd even started leaving her door cracked open during the day. Not enough to see in, but enough to hear out. On day 10, Lily asked if she could knock on Elena's door. I don't know if that's a good idea, Clara said, but we've been drawing together for days. Maybe she wants to draw in person. Or maybe the distance is what makes her feel safe. Can I just ask? In a note? Clara couldn't think of a good reason to say no, so she helped Lily write a note in her messy handwriting. Do you want to draw together in the same room? We could use the library. There's good light there. They left it outside Elena's door. An hour passed. 2. No response. Clara was starting to think Elena had retreated, that they'd pushed too far too fast. She was mentally composing an apology note when Lily tugged on her sleeve. Aunt Clara? Clara looked up. Elena was standing at the bottom of the 3rd-floor staircase. She was small for 8, with long dark hair that needed brushing and her mother's delicate features. She wore leggings and an oversized sweater, both rumpled like she'd slept in them. Her feet were bare, her face was pale, cautious, like a deer ready to bolt. She was holding a sketch pad and a pencil case. Clara's breath caught. This was the first time she'd seen Elena outside her room in 10 days. The first time Elena had voluntarily come downstairs in months, according to Maria. Hi, Lily said, completely unfazed. I'm Lily. Do you want to draw horses? I'm not very good at them, but I keep trying. Elena didn't respond, just stood there, gripping her art supplies. Clara kept her voice very quiet, very calm. The library has good light this time of day, And Maria made cookies if you're hungry. For a long moment, Elena didn't move. Then, so quietly Clara almost missed it, she said, "Okay." Her voice was rusty, unused. But it was a voice, an actual voice. Lily grinned and grabbed Elena's hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Come on, I'll show you where the good drawing table is." And just like that, they walked to the library together. Elena let herself be pulled along, not resisting, not engaging much, but there, present, moving. Clara followed at a distance, her heart hammering. She needed to tell Adrian. No, she needed to give Elena space. No, she needed to make sure this didn't fall apart. No, she needed to trust that Lily knew what she was doing better than any adult in this house. She compromised by texting Adrian. "Elena's in the library with Lily. They're drawing together. Don't come home. Don't interrupt. Just let it happen." His response was immediate. "Is she talking?" She said one word. "Okay." That's it. That's everything. Clara put her phone away and quietly positioned herself where she could see into the library without being obvious about it. Elena and Lily were at the big oak table, drawing supplies spread between them. Lily was chattering away about her horse drawing, explaining the rainbow mane, asking Elena's opinion on whether horses could be purple. Elena wasn't talking, but she was listening, and every few minutes she'd point at something on Lily's paper or add a line to her own drawing, or nod at something Lily said. It wasn't conversation, but it was communication. And for the first time since Clara had arrived, she thought maybe Adrian had been right to hire her. Not because she was qualified or trained or knew what she was doing, but because she'd been desperate enough to try something no expert would consider, letting two kids just be kids together. Maria appeared beside Clara, watching the girls through the doorway. "I haven't seen her out of her room in so long," she whispered. "Don't make a big deal of it," Clara warned. "If we react too much, we'll scare her back inside." "Mr. Cole needs to know." "He knows. I told him to stay away." "He won't listen." "Then you need to stop him if he tries to come home early. This is fragile. We can't rush it." Maria nodded and disappeared toward the kitchen. The girls drew for 2 hours. Lily did most of the talking, her 6-year-old voice filling the space with rambling stories about school and her stuffed rabbit and the time she saw a real horse at a petting zoo. Elena barely spoke, but she stayed. She drew. She even smiled once, just a tiny quirk of her lips, when Lily's purple horse ended up looking more like a dog. When Lily's energy finally flagged, Elena carefully gathered her supplies and stood up. "Same time tomorrow?" Lily asked hopefully. Elena hesitated, then nodded. Just once, but definitely. She walked back upstairs without another word, but her shoulders were slightly less hunched, her steps slightly less hesitant. Clara waited until she was gone, then went into the library. Lily was sprawled in a chair, exhausted and happy. "She's really good at drawing," Lily announced. "Way better than me. She showed me how to make horse legs look right." "Did she talk much?" "Not really, but she didn't need to. I could tell she was listening." Lily yawned. "Is she going to be okay?" "I think she might be, eventually." "Good." Another yawn. "Can we have cookies now?" They ate cookies in the kitchen while Maria pretended not to cry into the soup she was making. Then Clara took Lily upstairs for a nap, and when she came back down, Adrian was standing in the entrance hall. He must have broken every speed limit getting home. "Tell me everything," he said. So Clara did. Every detail, every moment. Adrian listened without interrupting, his face cycling through a dozen emotions: hope, fear, relief, anxiety. When she finished, he sat down heavily on the stairs. She spoke. One word. One word is infinite compared to silence. He looked up at Clara. "How did you do this?" "I didn't do anything. Lily did." "You brought Lily. You let them connect. You didn't force anything." He shook his head. "Every expert told me I needed structure, therapeutic intervention, professional boundaries. You gave me the opposite." "I gave you what worked for Lily. I had no idea if it would work for Elena. But it is working. Maybe. Or maybe this is just a good day and tomorrow she'll retreat again." "You don't believe that?" Clara didn't, actually, but she was afraid to hope too hard, afraid to think they'd turned a corner when they might just be standing at a temporary clearing. "The 2 weeks are almost up," Adrian said. "Will you stay longer?" Clara had known this was coming. The trial period ended in 4 days. She'd expected to fail, to collect her paycheck and leave. Instead, she'd somehow managed to coax Elena out of her room, and now Adrian was looking at her like she'd performed a miracle. "I need to talk to Lily," Clara said. "This was supposed to be temporary. She has school, friends, a life outside this house. She could have all that here. The school district is better. The house has everything she needs. I'd pay you." He named a number that made Clara's head spin. Annual salary, benefits, housing included. It was more money than she'd ever imagined making. It was security for Lily. It was medicine and savings and not constantly drowning in bills. It was also staying in a world that wasn't hers, playing a role she wasn't qualified for, gambling on her ability to keep helping a child who might relapse at any moment. "Let me think about it," she said. That night, Clara lay in bed and tried to imagine going back to her old life. The cramped apartment, the 3 jobs, the constant stress. It seemed impossible now, like something from another lifetime. But she also tried to imagine staying here permanently, living in Adrian Cole's house, raising Lily among wealth and privilege, being responsible for Elena's continued recovery. That seemed impossible too, in a different way. Lily solved the problem for her the next morning. "I like it here," she said over breakfast. "Elena needs us. Can we stay?" Just like that. No hesitation. A 6-year-old seeing the situation more clearly than Clara could. "It's not that simple, sweetheart." "Why not?" "Because I'm terrified of failing," Clara thought. "Because I don't belong in this world. Because I'm scared that the moment I commit to this, everything will fall apart." But she didn't say any of that, just, "Let me talk to Mr. Cole." She found Adrian in his study, already on his 3rd coffee, looking like he hadn't slept. "I'll stay," Clara said. "But I have conditions." "Name them." "First, I'm not a miracle worker. Elena might get better or she might not. You can't blame me if this doesn't work long term." "Agreed." "Second, I need boundaries. You can't micromanage me or override my decisions about Elena's care. If I think she needs space, she gets space. If I think she needs pushing, I push. My call." "That's harder, but agreed." "Third, Lily comes first, always. If this job ever puts her at risk or makes her unhappy, I leave. No argument." "I wouldn't expect anything else." Clara took a breath. "And fourth, I want this in writing. A real contract. With protections for both of us. I'm not doing this on a handshake." Adrian almost smiled. "You sound like a negotiator." "I sound like someone who's been screwed over before and won't let it happen again." "Fair enough. I'll have my lawyers draw something up today." They shook hands. The deal was made. Claire had no idea if she was making the right choice. But she knew she was making the only choice she could live with. And when she told Lily they were staying, Lily hugged her so tight Claire could barely breathe and whispered, "Elena's going to be so happy." Clara hoped she was right. The first real setback came 3 weeks later, on a Tuesday morning that started like any other. Elena and Lily had fallen into a rhythm. They drew together most afternoons in the library, sometimes in companionable silence, sometimes with Lily chattering while Elena listened. Elena still didn't talk much, a word here, a sentence there, but her presence had become constant. She'd started joining them for dinner twice a week. She'd even laughed once, a sound so unexpected that Adrian had frozen with his fork halfway to his mouth, afraid to breathe wrong and shatter the moment. Clara had started to believe they were past the worst of it. She should have known better. That morning, Elena came down for breakfast without being called. It was progress. She'd been doing that more often lately. But something was off. Her face was too pale, her movements too stiff. "Morning, Elena," Clara said carefully. "Want some pancakes? Maria made them with chocolate chips." Elena shook her head, sat at the table, didn't reach for juice or fruit or anything. Lily bounced into the room, already talking. "Elena, I had the best dream about—" She stopped, reading the room. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." Elena's voice was flat. "You look sad." "I'm fine." But she wasn't fine. Clara could see it in the rigid set of her shoulders, the way her hands were clenched in her lap. Something had happened. Something had triggered whatever darkness Elena had been fighting. Adrian appeared in the doorway, already dressed for work. "Morning, everyone. Elena, you're up early." Elena didn't respond, just stared at her empty plate. Adrian's smile faltered. He looked at Clara, a question in his eyes. She gave a tiny shake of her head. "Not now, don't push." But Adrian had never been good at not pushing. "Elena, are you feeling okay?" "I said I'm fine." Elena's voice went sharp. "You don't look fine." "Maybe because everyone keeps asking me if I'm fine." The tension in the room spiked. Lily stopped eating, watching Elena with worried eyes. Clara stood up, trying to defuse the situation. "Adrian, can I talk to you in the hall?" "In a minute." "Elena, if something's wrong." "Nothing's wrong." Elena stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "Why does everyone keep treating me like I'm broken? I'm fine. I'm always fine. Just leave me alone." She ran from the room. Clara heard her footsteps pounding up the stairs, heard the distant slam of her door. Adrian started to follow. Clara caught his arm. "Don't. She's upset." "I know, but chasing her will make it worse. I can't just let her—" "Yes, you can. You have to." Clara's grip tightened. Whatever this is, she needs space to feel it. Going up there now will only prove she was right to run. Adrian looked torn, desperate. Finally, he stepped back. "What do I do?" "You go to work. I'll handle this." "I should stay." "You should give her room, trust me." Clara met his eyes. "Please." He left, but Clara could see it cost him, could see the way he kept looking back at the staircase, the war between what he wanted to do and what he knew he should do. After he was gone, Lily asked quietly, "Is Elena going to be okay?" "I don't know, sweetheart, but we're going to try to help her." "What happened?" "I'm not sure. Sometimes people just have bad days." "Like you do sometimes, when you think I don't notice but you cry in the bathroom?" Claire's heart clenched. She'd thought she'd been hiding that better. "Yeah, like that." "Okay." Lily went back to her pancakes, but her movements were subdued, worried. Clara gave Elena 2 hours. Then she made a tray, tea, toast, fruit, and carried it upstairs. She knocked on Elena's door. "Go away." "I brought food." "I'm not hungry." "I'm leaving it here anyway." Clara set the tray down, started to leave, then stopped. "Elena, whatever happened, whatever you're feeling right now, it's okay. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to be fine. You're allowed to have bad days." Silence from behind the door. "I'm downstairs if you want to talk, or if you just want company, or if you want to be alone. All of those are okay." More silence. Clara went back downstairs, her stomach tight with worry. This felt different from Elena's initial withdrawal. This felt like something specific had triggered her, some memory or thought or fear that had pulled her back into darkness. She found Maria in the kitchen, asked if anything unusual had happened that morning. Maria frowned. "Not that I noticed. I took her breakfast to her room at 7 like always. She was already awake, sitting at her desk. I asked if she slept okay, and she said yes." Maria paused. "Although she was looking at something when I came in, put it away quickly, like she didn't want me to see." "What was it?" "I don't know, a paper of some kind, maybe a drawing." Clara thanked her and spent the rest of the morning trying to keep Lily occupied while her mind churned through possibilities. Had Elena found something that reminded her of her mother, of whatever happened at school? Had someone said something, done something? Around noon, Clara heard footsteps on the stairs. Elena appeared, still in her pajamas, holding a piece of paper. Her eyes were red-rimmed, but she wasn't crying. "Can we talk?" Elena's voice was small. "Of course." Clara gestured to the couch. "You want privacy, or is Lily okay to be here?" Elena looked at Lily, who was curled up in an armchair reading. "She can stay." They sat. Elena held the paper in both hands, not quite ready to show it. "You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to," Clara said gently. "I want to. I don't know how." "Start anywhere. We'll figure it out." Elena took a shaky breath. "Tomorrow is my mom's birthday. She would have been 35. Mas Clara's chest tightened. Of course, an anniversary, a marker of loss. I made her a card last year, Elena continued, but she died before her birthday came, so I never got to give it to her. I found it this morning in my desk drawer. I'd forgotten about it. She held out the paper. It was construction paper folded in half, slightly crumpled. On the front, a crayon drawing of flowers. Inside, in careful 8-year-old handwriting, Happy birthday, Mommy. I love you more than all the stars. Love, Elena. Clara had to work to keep her voice steady. That's beautiful. I was going to give it to her at breakfast. I had it all planned, but then she got really sick, and we had to go to the hospital, and I brought it with me, but the doctor said she couldn't have visitors because of her immune system, and then she died, and I never... Elena's voice cracked. I never got to tell her happy birthday. Oh, honey. And this morning I found it, and I thought... Elena's hands were shaking now. I thought maybe I could put it on her grave, but I don't even know where her grave is because Dad never took me to the funeral. He said I was too young, that it would be too hard, and I was so mad at him, but I couldn't say anything because I wasn't talking, and now I don't know where she is. The words came out in a rush, months of bottled emotion finally breaking free. Clara moved to sit beside her, close but not touching. That must feel awful, not being able to say goodbye. Everyone got to say goodbye except me. Dad got to. Aunt Diane got to. Even the nurses got to. But I was at home with Maria, and I didn't know she died until Dad came back and told me, and by then she was already gone. Elena was crying now, not bothering to hide it. I just wanted to give her the card. Lily had put down her book, was watching with tears in her own eyes. Where's your dad right now? So, Clara asked. Work. I'm going to call him. I think he needs to hear this. He'll be mad that I'm upset. He won't be mad. He'll want to help. Elena looked doubtful, but didn't argue. Clara stepped into the hallway, called Adrian. He answered on the first ring. Is she okay? She's talking, really talking, but you need to come home, now. I'm in a meeting. Adrian. Your daughter is crying in the living room because she never got to say goodbye to her mother. Come home. He was there in 20 minutes, must have broken every traffic law. Clara met him at the door, quickly explained the situation. His face went through a dozen emotions: grief, guilt, determination. Where is she? Still on the couch. She's calmer now, but she needs you. Adrian walked into the living room. Elena looked up, and for a second Clara thought she might run. But instead, she just held out this birthday card. I made this for Mom, Elena said, but I never gave it to her. Adrian took the card with shaking hands, read it. His eyes went red. Elena, I'm so sorry. Where is she buried? Rosewood Cemetery, on the hill overlooking the lake. Why didn't you take me to the funeral? Because I thought... Adrian sat down beside her, his voice breaking. I thought I was protecting you. You'd already lost so much, and the funeral was so hard, and I thought if you didn't see it, maybe it wouldn't hurt as much. But I was wrong. I took away your chance to say goodbye, and that was cruel, and I'm so sorry. Elena was crying again, but differently now. Not the choked-off sobs she'd been holding in for months, but real tears that seemed to come from somewhere deep. Can we go there? She asked. To where she is? Right now? I want to give her the card. Adrian looked at Clara. She nodded. This was important. This was healing. We'll all go, Adrian said. If that's okay with you? Elena nodded. They drove in near silence. Adrian's hands were white-knuckled on the steering wheel. Elena sat in the back between Clara and Lily, holding the birthday card like it was made of glass. The cemetery was 20 minutes away, peaceful and green even in January's gray cold. Victoria's grave was exactly where Adrian said it would be, on a hill with a view of the lake. The headstone was simple. Her name, her dates, beloved wife and mother. Someone had left flowers recently, probably Adrian, Clara thought. Elena stood in front of the grave for a long moment, just staring. Then she knelt down and carefully placed the birthday card against the headstone. Happy birthday, Mommy, she whispered. I'm sorry I'm late. Adrian knelt beside her, his hand on her shoulder. She would have loved it. She would have loved you. I miss her so much. Me too, baby. Me too. They stayed like that for a while, father and daughter kneeling together in the cold grass. Clara and Lily hung back, giving them space. Lily reached for Clara's hand, squeezed tight. Is Elena going to be okay now? Lily whispered. I think she's going to be better, Clara said. Not perfect, but better. Finally, Elena stood up. She looked different somehow, still sad but less burdened, like she'd put down something heavy she'd been carrying for months. Can we come back sometimes? She asked Adrian. To visit her? Whenever you want. On the drive home, Elena fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted from emotion. Adrian kept glancing at her in the rearview mirror, his expression complex. I should have brought her sooner, he said quietly. You were trying to protect her, Clara said. I was trying to protect myself. I couldn't face coming here, so I told myself she couldn't either. That's not protection. That's cowardice. You're here now. That's what matters. Because you made me come. Because she broke down and forced the issue. He shook his head. I'm her father. I should have known she needed this. You can't read her mind. None of us can. You seem to do a pretty good job of it. Clara didn't know what to say to that. The truth was, she'd gotten lucky. She'd guessed right about giving Elena space, about letting her process, about calling Adrian when it mattered. But she could just as easily have guessed wrong. Back at the house, Elena went upstairs to rest. Adrian disappeared into his study. Clara made dinner with Maria, keeping her hands busy while her mind processed everything that had happened. She talked about her mother, Maria said, first time since the funeral. It's a start. More than a start. It's a breakthrough. Maria paused. You know, I thought Mr. Cole was crazy when he made that post online. Thought he'd completely lost it. But then you showed up and I thought, what's this poor woman going to do? She's got no training, no experience with this kind of thing. You'd be right about that. But you understood something the experts didn't. Maria looked at Clara directly. You understood that Elena didn't need someone to fix her. She needed someone to see her. Clara's throat went tight. I just did what felt right. That's exactly my point. You trusted yourself instead of trying to follow someone else's rules. Maria went back to chopping vegetables. Mr. Cole is lucky he found you. That night, after Lily was asleep and the house was quiet, Clara stood at the window in her room and looked out at the gardens. The magnolia tree Elena loved was bare this time of year, branches dark against the evening sky. In a few months it would bloom, white flowers opening like stars. She wondered if Elena would climb it again, if Adrian would let her, if the fear that had driven him to build that fence would ease now that Elena was talking again, now that some of the silence had broken. A knock on her door pulled her from her thoughts. She opened it to find Adrian standing there, looking exhausted. Is Elena okay? Clara asked immediately. She's asleep. I checked on her 10 minutes ago. He hesitated. Can I come in? Clara stepped back, let him enter. He looked around the room like he was seeing it for the first time, taking in the lived-in mess. Lily's drawings on the desk, Clara's book stacked on the nightstand, the stuffed rabbit forgotten on a chair. I wanted to thank you, Adrian said, for today, for calling me, for knowing what she needed. I didn't know, I guessed. You guessed right. He sat on the edge of the bed, shoulders slumped. I've been thinking about what she said, about how everyone got to say goodbye except her. And she's right. I kept her away from the funeral, from the hospital, from everything. I thought I was being a good father, but I was just... His voice caught. I was just trying to pretend it wasn't happening. Clara sat in the armchair across from him. You were grieving. You're allowed to handle that however you need to. Not when it hurts my daughter. You were trying to protect her from pain. That's not wrong, Adrian. It just didn't work the way you hoped. He looked at her, and there was something raw in his expression. How do you do this? How do you always seem to know what to say? I don't. Half the time I'm terrified I'm making things worse. You're not, though. You're making everything better. He stood up, started pacing. Elena's talking again. She's eating with us. She's leaving her room. She cried today, really cried. Not that silent thing she's been doing where she buries her face in her pillow so no one can hear. She cried out loud and let me see it. Do you understand what that means? It means she's processing, finally. It means she's healing because of you. Because of Lily, Clara corrected, and because Elena was ready. Don't do that. Don't minimize what you've done. Adrian stopped in front of her. You walked into an impossible situation with no training and no support, and you somehow made it work. You gave my daughter her voice back. Clara stood up too, uncomfortable with the intensity in his voice. I gave her a safe space, that's all. The voice was always hers. Clara, Adrian, don't. She moved toward the door, needing distance. Don't make this into something it's not. I'm doing a job. I'm good at it, apparently, but it's still just a job. Is it? The question hung between them. Clara wanted to say yes, wanted to maintain that professional boundary, keep everything clean and simple, but the truth was messier. She cared about Elena, cared about watching her slowly come back to life, cared about the way Adrian looked at his daughter like she was his entire world, cared about this strange family she and Lily had stumbled into. I should go check on Lily, Clara said instead of answering. It's after midnight. She's definitely asleep. Still, Adrian studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Thank you again, for today, for everything. You're welcome. He left. Clara closed the door and leaned against it, her heart racing for reasons she didn't want to examine too closely. This was getting complicated. She was getting too attached. She needed to remember this was temporary, that eventually she and Lily would leave, that this wasn't their real life. But when she checked on Lily and found her sleeping peacefully in a bed that was warm and safe, when she thought about Elena crying openly for the first time in months, when she remembered Adrian's face when his daughter said she missed her mother, it was getting harder to remember what real life even meant anymore. The weeks that followed were better. Not perfect, but better. Elena started joining them for dinner every night. She still didn't talk much, but her silences were different now. Comfortable instead of suffocating. She and Lily continued their drawing sessions, and gradually Elena started teaching Lily techniques, how to shade, how to create depth, how to make things look three-dimensional. She also started talking to Adrian again. Short conversations at first, careful and tentative, but conversations nonetheless. How was school? He'd ask. Fine, we learned about the solar system. Did you like it? Yeah, I want to draw Saturn next, with the rings. Simple exchanges, normal exchanges. The kind of thing that shouldn't have made Adrian look like he'd been given the world, but did. Clara watched them rebuild their relationship piece by careful piece, and something in her chest ached. This was what she'd been hired to do. This was success. So why did it feel bittersweet? One evening, about 6 weeks after the cemetery visit, Elena asked if she could have a friend over. The request came during dinner. Adrian nearly dropped his fork. A friend? He repeated. From school. Her name is Sophie. She's in my class. Elena's voice was small, uncertain. We've been sitting together at lunch. She likes to draw too. Adrian looked at Clara, speechless. Clara smiled. That sounds great. When were you thinking? Maybe this weekend, if it's okay? It's more than okay, Adrian managed. Sophie came on Saturday. She was a quiet girl with glasses and a backpack full of art supplies. She and Elena disappeared into the library, emerged 3 hours later having created an elaborate fantasy world populated by dragons and wizards. Clara watched Elena explain the rules of their invented universe to Sophie. Her voice animated, her hands moving expressively, and thought, this is it. This is what normal looks like. That night, after Sophie had gone home and Elena was in bed, Adrian found Clara in the kitchen. She's making friends, he said, wonder in his voice. She is. She's talking to kids her own age, inviting them over. Being social. Told you she'd find her people eventually? Adrian leaned against the counter. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Clara's stomach tightened. Okay. Do you think she still needs you, or have we reached the point where she'd be okay if you left? The question shouldn't have hurt. It was practical, logical. The whole point of Clara's job was to work herself out of a job, but it still felt like a punch to the chest. I think she'd be okay, Clara said carefully. She's not all the way there yet, but she's close. Another few months maybe, and she won't need me at all. And Lily? How would she feel about leaving? Clara hadn't let herself think about that too much. Lily had settled into life at the mansion like she'd been born to it. Better school, better resources, a friend in Elena. Going back to their old life would be hard. She'd adjust, Clara said. Kids are resilient. That's not what I asked. She'd be sad, but she'd be okay. Adrian nodded slowly. And you? Would you be sad? Clara didn't know how to answer that. Yes, she'd be sad, but she'd also be relieved. This life wasn't hers. This world of wealth and comfort and safety wasn't where she belonged. She was just borrowing it for a while. I'd miss Elena, Clara said finally, and I'd worry about her, but that's normal. Just Elena? The question was loaded. Clara could feel it. She met Adrian's eyes and saw something there that made her pulse quicken. Adrian, I'm not asking you to stay forever, he said quickly. I know that's not fair, but maybe a little longer, another few months at least. Elena's doing better, but she's still fragile, and I don't want to risk her sliding back by changing too much too fast. It was a reasonable request, practical, professional. So why did it feel like something else entirely? Okay, Clara heard herself say. A few more months. Adrian's relief was visible. Thank you. He left before Clara could second-guess her decision. She stood in the empty kitchen and wondered what she'd just agreed to. Wondered why Adrian's question about whether she'd be sad had felt less like a professional inquiry and more like something personal. Wondered why the thought of leaving made her chest ache in a way that had nothing to do with Elena and everything to do with the man who'd hired her. This was getting complicated, and Clara had no idea how to uncomplicate it. Spring came slowly that year, hesitant and uncertain, like it wasn't sure if it was welcome. But it came anyway, the way healing always does, not because it's invited, but because it's inevitable if you just keep breathing long enough. The magnolia tree bloomed in late March, white petals unfurling against a pale blue sky. Clara was in the garden with Lily when she heard the sound, footsteps on gravel, quick and purposeful. She turned to see Elena running across the lawn, her face lit up in a way Clara hadn't seen in all the months she'd been there. It bloomed! Elena shouted. Clara, look, it finally bloomed. She was breathless, excited, more alive than she'd been since that first day in the library. Lily jumped up from the flowers they'd been examining and ran to meet her, and the two girls stood under the magnolia together, tilting their heads back to look at the branches heavy with blossoms. Can I climb it? Elena asked, turning to Clara with hope and fear mixed in her expression. I know Dad said I couldn't, but it's been so long and I miss it, and I promise I'll be careful. Clara's first instinct was to say no. Adrian had been clear about the fence, about the rules, but she looked at Elena's face, at the desperate want there, and thought about all the ways fear could cage a person. Let me talk to your dad, Clara said. He'll say no. Maybe, but maybe not. That evening, after dinner, Clara found Adrian in his study going through reports he'd probably read 3 times already. He looked up when she knocked, and something in his expression shifted when he saw her. It had been doing that lately, softening in a way that made Clara's stomach flip. Elena wants to climb the magnolia tree, Clara said without preamble. Adrian set down his papers. No. Hear me out. Clara, she could fall. She could get hurt. She could also remember what it feels like to do something she loves, to feel free. Clara moved into the room, sat across from him. Adrian, you can't protect her from everything, and trying to is just going to push her away. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You're terrified of losing her, but you can't keep her in a bubble. That's not living. Adrian stood, started pacing. It was his tell when he was working through something difficult. What if something happens? What if nothing happens and she just gets to be a kid again? You're asking me to let go. I'm asking you to trust her. He stopped at the window, looking out at the gardens where the magnolia stood, illuminated by landscape lighting. Victoria used to climb that tree with her. When Elena was little, they'd sit up there together and Victoria would read to her. After Victoria died, Elena started climbing it alone. And every time I saw her up there, all I could think was, what if she falls? What if I lose her too? What if... His voice broke. Clara stood, moved to stand beside him. She's not Victoria. She's not going to disappear just because you give her freedom. You can't promise that. No, I can't. But I can promise that keeping her trapped in fear isn't protecting her. It's just teaching her to be afraid. Adrian was quiet for a long time. Then, if she climbs that tree, you have to be there, watching. I can do that. And she has to promise to be careful. She will. He turned to look at Clara, and the vulnerability in his face nearly undid her. When did you get so good at knowing what she needs? I'm not good at it. I just remember being young and scared and wanting someone to tell me it was okay to try. Something in his expression shifted. Did anyone ever tell you that? No, that's how I know Elena needs to hear it. The next morning, Clara took down the fence around the magnolia tree. Elena watched from the porch, hardly daring to believe it was real. When the last section came down, she looked at Clara with tears in her eyes. I can really climb it? You can really climb it. Elena ran to the tree, touched the trunk like she was greeting an old friend. Then she started climbing, sure-footed and confident, muscle memory taking over. She made it to her favorite branch, the one that forked out over the garden, and sat there with her face turned up to the sun. Lily watched from the ground, awed. Can I learn to climb too? When you're bigger, Clara promised. Elena stayed in that tree for 2 hours. When she finally came down, her hands were scraped and her shirt was dirty, and she was grinning so wide it looked like her face might split. Thank you, she told Clara, for making Dad understand. He understood. He just needed a push. But that night, when Adrian found Clara in the kitchen making tea, he pulled her into a hug that lasted 3 seconds too long to be just friendly. Thank you, he said into her hair, for teaching me how to let go. Clara's heart hammered against her ribs. She pulled back, put necessary distance between them. That's what you pay me for. Is it? The question again, the one she kept refusing to answer. Adrian, don't. Don't what? Don't make this complicated. It's already complicated, Clara. It's been complicated since the day you walked into my office and told me about your niece. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. Do you know what you've done for this family? You gave me my daughter back. You gave Elena her voice. You made this house feel like a home again, instead of a mausoleum. That's not, and somewhere in all of that, you made me realize that I'd stopped living too. I'd buried myself in work and guilt and fear, and you showed me there was another way. Clara's hands were shaking. She set down her tea before she dropped it. I'm your employee, Adrian. That's all this is. Is it? Because it doesn't feel like that anymore. Not to me. Then maybe you need to remember why I'm here. I'm here for Elena, not for... She couldn't finish the sentence. Not for me, Adrian finished quietly. I know, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. He left the kitchen. Clara stood there alone, her heart racing, her mind spinning. This was exactly what she'd been afraid of. Getting too close, caring too much, blurring lines that were supposed to stay clear. She went to bed that night and lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, trying to remember why leaving was the right choice when staying felt like the only choice that made sense. The answer came 3 days later, in the form of a phone call from a number Clara didn't recognize. Is this Clara Hayes? A woman's voice, official sounding. Yes? Well, this is Margaret Whitmore from Child Protective Services. I'm calling regarding Lily Hayes. There's been a complaint filed questioning the living arrangement and your fitness as a guardian. Clara's blood went cold. What? I can't discuss details over the phone, but we need to schedule a home visit. Are you available tomorrow at 10? Clara's hands were shaking so badly she nearly dropped the phone. Yes, I'll be here. After she hung up, she just stood there, trying to breathe, trying to think. Someone had called CPS. Someone had reported her. Who? Why? Adrian found her 20 minutes later, still frozen in the same spot. Clara, what's wrong? She told him, watched his face go from concerned to furious. Who would do this? I don't know. Maybe someone from my old building? Maybe they think it's weird that we disappeared into some rich guy's house? Or maybe it's someone who doesn't want you here. Adrian pulled out his phone. I'm calling my lawyer. Don't. Clara, this is serious. They can't just... They can, actually. They're supposed to investigate complaints. That's their job. Clara finally moved, sank into a chair. I just need to prove that Lily's safe and well cared for, that I'm a fit guardian. Which you obviously are. To you, maybe. To them, I'm a woman with no formal education, no stable employment history, living in someone else's house under unusual circumstances. She laughed, but it came out bitter. This looks bad, Adrian. I know it looks bad. Then we make it look better. Your lawyer will make it look like I need your money to be a decent guardian. That's worse. Clara stood up. I need to handle this myself. The CPS worker who showed up the next morning was in her 40s, professional but not unkind. Her name was Margaret, and she had a clipboard and a lot of questions. Clara answered them all honestly. Yes, she lived here. Yes, Adrian Cole was her employer. Yes, the living arrangement was unconventional, but Lily was thriving. Better school, better health care, stable home environment. Margaret took notes, asked to see Lily's room, asked to speak to Lily privately. Clara waited in the hallway, her stomach in knots, while Margaret interviewed her niece. When they emerged 15 minutes later, Lily looked confused but not upset. Miss Hayes, Margaret said, can we speak privately? They went to Clara's room. Margaret closed the door. I need to be frank with you, Margaret said. The complaint came from Victoria Cole's sister, Diane Morrison. She's concerned that you're taking advantage of Mr. Cole's grief, that this living arrangement is inappropriate, and that Lily is being used as a pawn. Clara's vision went white at the edges. I'm not saying I agree with her. I'm telling you what the complaint alleges. Margaret's voice softened. But I have to tell you, from what I've seen today, Lily appears healthy, happy, and well-adjusted. Her room is appropriate. She speaks highly of you and her life here. There are no signs of neglect or abuse. So this is over? Not exactly. I still need to interview Mr. Cole and his daughter, and I need to submit a full report, but unless something concerning comes up, I don't see grounds for removing Lily from your care. Relief made Clara's legs weak. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Mrs. Morrison is persistent. She may escalate this. After Margaret left, Clara called Adrian at work, told him what happened. His response was immediate and cold. Diane did this. Margaret said, I know what Margaret said. Diane's been looking for a reason to cause problems since I posted that offer online. She thinks I've lost my mind, thinks Elena should be with her instead. His voice went hard. I'll handle this. Adrian, don't do anything. I'm protecting my family, Clara. That includes you and Lily now. He hung up before she could argue. That evening, Diane Morrison showed up at the mansion, and the confrontation Clara had been dreading finally happened. Diane was in her 50s, well-dressed, with Victoria's eyes and none of her warmth. She swept into the entrance hall like she owned it, her gaze landing on Clara with open hostility. So you're the woman taking advantage of my brother-in-law. Clara kept her voice level. I'm the woman helping his daughter. By moving yourself and your child into his house? How convenient. Aunt Diane? Elena appeared at the top of the stairs, her voice small. What are you doing here? Diane's expression softened slightly. Elena, sweetheart, I came to check on you. I've been worried. I'm fine. Are you? Because from what I hear, your father has a complete stranger living here, someone with no credentials, no background in child psychology. She's not a stranger, Elena said, coming down the stairs. She's Clara. She helped me when nobody else could. Elena, you don't understand. I understand that you didn't visit me once when I stopped talking. I understand that you told Dad I needed medication and therapy and to be sent away to some special school. I understand that you wanted him to give up on me. Elena's voice got stronger with each word. Clara didn't give up. She stayed. She listened. She made me feel like I wasn't broken. Diane looked stunned. I never said you were broken. You didn't have to. I could tell you thought it. Elena stood next to Clara, a united front. I'm talking again because of Clara and Lily, so maybe you should say thank you instead of trying to make them leave. Adrian had appeared during this exchange, had watched it unfold with something like pride on his face. Diane, he said quietly, I think you should go. Adrian, I'm trying to protect you. By calling CPS on the woman who saved my daughter? By trying to remove Lily from a stable home? By making Clara's life hell because you don't approve of my choices? His voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. I love Victoria. I always will. But she's gone, and I have to keep living. Elena has to keep living, and Clara has been a part of that healing. If you can't accept that, then I need you to leave. Diane looked between Adrian and Elena, searching for support she wasn't going to find. Finally, she grabbed her purse. This isn't over, she said. Yes, it is. Adrian walked to the door, opened it. Goodbye, Diane. After she left, the silence in the entrance hall was deafening. Elena broke it first. Is Clara really leaving? Clara's heart clenched. No, honey. Not if you don't want me to. I don't want you to, ever. Elena, please. Elena's eyes filled with tears. You and Lily are family now. You can't leave. You just can't. Clara looked at Adrian, helpless. He looked back, and there was a question in his eyes that had nothing to do with employment. We should talk, Clara said. All of us. They ended up in the living room, Clara and Adrian on one couch, Elena and Lily on the other. It felt like a family meeting, which was both appropriate and terrifying. Here's what I know, Clara started. I came here to do a job, help Elena, collect a paycheck, move on. But somewhere along the way, that changed. I care about you guys, all of you, more than I probably should. Then stay, Elena said immediately. It's not that simple, sweetheart. There are complications. Like what? How did you explain to an 8-year-old that you were falling for her father and that was completely inappropriate and probably disastrous? You didn't. You found other words. Like the fact that your Aunt Diane has a point, Clara said. This living arrangement is unusual. People are going to talk. They're going to assume things. I don't care what people think, Adrian said. You should care. You have a company to run, a reputation to maintain, and I have Lily to protect. If staying here puts her at risk, it doesn't, Adrian interrupted. Margaret said Lily was fine. The investigation is basically over. For now, but Diane's right about one thing. This isn't normal. A billionaire CEO living with his employee and her niece? That's a headline waiting to happen. So we make it normal, Adrian leaned forward. You're not just an employee, Clara. You haven't been for months. He paused, choosing words carefully with both girls watching. You're important to this family, to me. And if staying here in some ambiguous capacity makes you uncomfortable, then we change the parameters. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we make this official, not as employer-employee, as family. Clara's breath caught. Adrian, I'm not talking about marriage or anything you're not ready for, he said quickly. I'm talking about adoption, legal guardianship, making sure you and Lily have protection, security, a real place here that nobody can question. Elena's eyes went wide. You mean Lily would be like my sister? If Clara agrees, yes. And Clara would be like, family? She already is family, Elena. We're just talking about making it legal. Lily had been quiet through all of this, but now she spoke up. Aunt Clara, does this mean we get to stay forever? Forever. The word hung in the air, terrifying and tempting in equal measure. Clara looked at Adrian, at the hope and fear mixed in his expression. Looked at Elena, practically vibrating with excitement. Looked at Lily, her sweet niece who deserves stability and safety and a real childhood. I need time to think, Clara said. That's fair, Adrian agreed. Take all the time you need. But that night, lying in bed, Clara realized she didn't need time. She needed courage. The truth was, she'd already made her choice. She'd made it weeks ago, maybe months ago. Maybe even that first night when she'd heard Elena crying behind a closed door and decided to leave a note instead of walking away. She'd chosen these people. This strange, broken, healing family. The question wasn't whether to stay. It was whether she was brave enough to admit she wanted to. In the morning, Clara found Adrian in the kitchen making coffee. Lily and Elena were still asleep. I have conditions, Clara said. He turned, hope lighting his face. Name them. First, Lily's needs come first. Always. If this arrangement ever puts her at risk or makes her unhappy, we revisit everything. Agreed. Second, I'm not a charity case. If we're doing this, I need a real role, not just woman who lives here. I want to help with the foundation you mentioned months ago, the one for struggling parents. Let me run it, build it, make it real. I'd love that. And third, Clara took a breath. We take this slow. Whatever this is between us, we don't rush it. Elena and Lily come first, always. There's an us? Adrian's voice was soft. Don't push. I'm not pushing, I'm clarifying. There might be an us, eventually, if we don't screw this up. Clara met his eyes, but I need to know you understand what you're signing up for. I'm not Victoria. I can't replace her. I won't even try. I don't want you to replace her. He stopped, started over. Victoria was my first love, the mother of my child. I'll always love her. But she's gone, and I'm still here, and somewhere in the past few months, I started feeling alive again. Because of you. Adrian, I'm not asking for promises. I'm not asking for declarations. I'm just asking for a chance. For all of us to build something new together. Something that honors what we've lost while making room for what we might find. Clara's eyes burned with tears she refused to shed. That's a lot of big words for a guy who makes his money in software. I've had months to practice this speech. She laughed despite herself. Okay. Okay? We'll try, slow, careful, with the girl's happiness as our priority. Adrian's smile could have lit up the entire house. I can work with that. The legal arrangements took weeks to finalize. Adoption papers for Lily, making Clara her legal mother instead of just guardian. A trust fund to ensure Lily's education and future. Clara's official role as director of the newly formed Cole Foundation for Family Support, with a salary that made her dizzy and a mission that made her heart sing. And through it all, life continued. Elena started art classes at a local studio, came home covered in paint and bubbling with stories about her teacher and the other students. Lily finished first grade at the top of her class, made friends with 3 girls she brought home for playdates that turned the mansion into a chaos of giggles and running feet. Adrian learned to let go a little more each day, let Elena climb her tree, let Clara make decisions without consulting him first, let himself be happy without feeling guilty about Victoria's absence. And Clara learned that home wasn't a place you were born into. It was a place you built, piece by careful piece, with people who chose to stay even when staying was hard. 6 months after that conversation in the kitchen, on a warm September evening, they had a family dinner in the garden under the magnolia tree. Maria had made Elena's favorite pasta. Lily had decorated the table with flowers she'd picked. Adrian had actually left work at a reasonable hour for once. And Elena, sitting between Claire and Lily, looked around the table and said, "I'm happy." 2 simple words, but they meant everything. Later, after the girls were in bed, Adrian found Clara on the back terrace, looking at the stars. "Penny for your thoughts," he said, sitting beside her. "Just thinking about how weird life is. A year ago, I was cleaning offices for minimum wage, barely making rent, terrified I'd lose Lily because I couldn't afford her medicine." Clara shook her head. "Now I'm here, and I still can't quite believe it's real. It's real. I know, but sometimes I'm scared it'll disappear, that I'll wake up, and this will all have been some elaborate dream." Adrian took her hand, laced their fingers together. It was the most physical contact they'd allowed themselves in months of careful restraint. Not a dream. Very much real. Occasionally messy, frequently chaotic, but real. "When did you get so good with words?" "When I realized words were the only way to tell you I'm falling in love with you without scaring you off." Clara's breath caught. They'd been dancing around this for months, neither willing to say it first. "That's not fair," she said. "What's not fair?" "Using the L word when I've been trying so hard not to think about feelings." "Are you thinking about feelings now?" "Unfortunately, yes." "And what are those feelings telling you?" Clara turned to look at him, this man who'd been broken when she met him, who'd learned to heal, who'd made room in his damaged heart for her and Lily. "They're telling me that I walked into your life planning to fix your daughter and leave. But instead, you fixed me, made me believe I deserved more than survival. That Lily and I deserved a real home, real family, real happiness. Clara, and they're telling me that I love you too. Even though it's terrifying and complicated and probably still a little bit inappropriate given how we started. She squeezed his hand. But I love you anyway. Adrian kissed her then, soft and careful, like she was something precious. When they pulled apart, they were both smiling. The girls are going to lose their minds when they find out, Clara said. Elena already knows. She asked me last week when I was going to stop being scared and just tell Clara you love her. Clara laughed. Smart kid. She learned from the best. They sat there under the stars, hands linked, and Clara thought about all the ways life could surprise you. How sometimes the people who saved you were the ones who walked in with nothing. How healing wasn't linear or clean or perfect. How family wasn't about blood or credentials or knowing all the right things to say. It was about showing up, staying, choosing each other every single day, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. Inside the house, two girls were sleeping safely, dreaming their separate dreams. One who'd found her voice again. One who'd found a real home. Both loved, both protected, both given a chance at the kind of childhood that left room for joy. And in that moment, Clara understood what she'd been trying to articulate for months. It wasn't about credentials or qualifications or knowing the perfect therapeutic approach. It was about presence, patience, the willingness to sit with someone in their pain and not try to fix it, just witness it, to stay when everyone else left, to believe in healing even when it seemed impossible. That's what she'd given Elena, what she'd given this whole family, and what they'd given her in return was worth more than any amount of money could measure, the knowledge that she was enough. Just as she was, no training required. Come on, Adrian said, standing and pulling her up with him. Let's go inside. Early day tomorrow. When isn't it an early day in this house? Fair point. They walked back inside together, turning off lights, checking doors, doing the ordinary mundane tasks of people who'd built a life together. And Clara thought about how she'd never expected to be here. In this mansion with this man and these children, building something that looked nothing like what she'd planned but felt exactly right. Sometimes the best things in life were the ones you never saw coming. Sometimes the person you saved ended up saving you right back. And sometimes, just sometimes, walking in with nothing was exactly what someone needed, because it meant you came with no agenda, no expectations, no demands. Just the willingness to stay, to witness, to believe in the possibility of healing even when everyone else had given up. That was enough. It had always been enough. And as Clara climbed the stairs to check on Lily one last time before bed, she smiled at the thought of how far they'd all come, how much they'd grown, how much they'd healed. The billionaire had learned that money couldn't buy happiness, but presence could create it. The silent girl had learned that her voice mattered, that she was allowed to hurt and heal and be imperfectly human. The little girl had learned that home wasn't about buildings or bank accounts, but about people who chose to stay. And Clara had learned that sometimes the most important qualification for helping someone wasn't training or credentials or expertise. It was simply being willing to show up day after day with nothing but your own broken history and the belief that healing was possible. That was the gift she'd given them. And the gift they'd given her in return, love, family, home, was worth more than $500 million. It was worth everything.